in my intro, I talk about the experience of my daughter. You mentioned Deepak earlier. I was in my late 40s, which I think many, many women go through, standing at this crossroads of what's going on in my life. My children are, high school or going off to college, which my daughter was. What do I want for the next 30 years, 40 years? And questioning my own marriage, my own relationship. But I was so conscious of the way my mother had handled that and the vow I made at 16, never to do unto my children what my mother had done to me. It wasn't so much she left, it was the way she did it and the weight she put on me. So
yeah. So it's so we're putting, by the way, the name of the book is My Mother Next Door. It's on the screen. My listening audience, My Mother Next Door. Where can they get My Mother Next Door, Dan?
It's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, bookstores. If you go in, you can order it from your bookstore, your local bookstore. I always like to plug local bookstores. But Amazon, of course. It's also available as an audiobook on Spotify, on Audible, every platform. And I've narrated it myself because I think it's really important to share your own story in your own voice.
Well, I know I'm going to have to pick it up. And I don't share my personal life too much on air, but sometimes I do. But anyway, my mom also left when I was 16. Didn't tell me, didn't tell anybody, right? The only thing she told me 2 years earlier is that I'm not happy in my marriage, and if I leave, I'll take you with me. So I found out, I think my dad let me know, she had left, but it wasn't about the leaving; it was about how she left.
Exactly,
like you just said. That was an important. Let's talk about that. So, how did that impact you? How she left? As opposed to maybe having a conscious conversation around it so you knew what was coming. How would have that impacted you differently?
I think it was, my mom was always threatening to leave or admitting she wasn't happy or comfortable. Probably the previous 2-3 years before it happened, I remember she was a very independent woman who had run businesses, worked before she married my father. And then she married someone who was a very traditional man, didn't want his wife working. And I remember the time she was going back to work, she didn't tell him. And when he found out, he stopped her. And that's when I saw the dominoes fall. But what it did for me is it taught me to be very aware of what I say to my kids, that there is a certain amount you need to share, but you can't share every single emotion and put that, again, that word burden, that burden on them of them feeling responsible for that. Because they do.
So a lot of parents try to make their kids their best friend. And I think they say everything to them and let them know everything. And, they do this from the time they're, very young until, and all of a sudden, you have this person that doesn't know how to function in society because they've carried the pain of the family.
Right. And I think that's really important because I had to distance myself from a lot of our emotions. And I had to why did I end up coming to America to run away from her shenanigans, let alone for business and opportunity? But that was an underlying part of it. But I learned pretty quickly how to really become this vessel that she would say one thing to me, and my dad might say another, but I learned never to run to the other one with the negative side of that, because I saw how that would just fester the wound and things could blow up. So I
I
really
love that.